This is from Midrash Rabbah Parshat Vayeshev, entitled Harnessing Your Imagination to Overcome Moral Challenges. So the Midrash fills in some interesting background to the well-known story of the wife of Potiphar trying to seduce Yosef. It tells us that a matron, which is a Roman noblewoman, approached Rabbi Yossi and said, "How is it that a young man with raging hormones could possibly withstand the advances of this woman?" And the Midrash further tells us that she was so bent on getting her way that she communicated to Yosef that she would actually kill her husband in order to cover it up and get her way. So with that kind of a background, it seems like the Midrash looks at the simple pshat, the narration that we have in the Torah, and says it's got to be more than this, right? Because in the simple story, very rationally, Yosef explains to her, how could I betray your husband? He put me in charge of the whole household, and how could I betray my God? But considering the immensity of what Yosef did, and you know, the tremendous tension in this story, it seems like the Midrash is looking elsewhere. He's sort of looking for the creative moral consciousness of Yosef and to see what exactly he did in order to withstand her advances. So the Midrash lists 6 different things that he did. And again, the Midrash uses the words from the story, from the simple pshat, but takes them to other places and to show how Yosef's imagination was used to fortify himself. So let me share with you these 6 different concepts. The first one was that Yosef thought to himself, you know, I'm a slave. I'm in a very vulnerable position in life. My life could be taken at any time. It could be taken as a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God. Just like the paradigm of sanctification of the name of God is when Avram was about to take the life of his son Yitzchak. He was considered an olah, a burnt offering. Now, I could never be an olah if I engage in this sin. I could never reach that level. It would be considered a blemish that would ruin me from that level of self-sacrifice. So how could I do this? The second notion that Yosef came up with was about prophecy. My father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather were all prophets, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. If I engage in this act, I certainly will lose potentially the power of prophecy. The third one was, he looked at Adam Arishon. He said, look, Adam was banished from the Garden of Eden. For what? For a simple thing that he did, not eating from the tree of knowledge. This, God will certainly seem to be way more severe than that. So tremendous repercussions. I can't do this. The fourth one was that he was afraid that he would be stripped of any possibility of becoming the firstborn, right? He was the firstborn of Rachel, and he thought he could be the firstborn of the family, but not if he engaged in this. The fifth one was that, as I mentioned earlier, Potiphar was so dedicated to getting her way with him that she was even willing to kill her husband. So Yosef thought to him, what does that make me? An adulterer and an accomplice to murder? That far I can't go. And finally, he realized that Potiphar has a simplistic idea of spirituality. She's an idolater. In fact, the Midrash tells us further on that she actually had an idol above her bed. And when she brought Yosef into her bedroom, she covered the face of the idol, thinking, okay, now this idol can't see what we're doing. We're clear. But Yosef said to himself, I know better. I know that we have an all-knowing God. This trick won't work for me. So I can't go through with this. Now, of course, later on, Rashi made famous the story of the fact that he saw an image of his father. So that came sequentially a little bit later. These first 6 were during the initial confrontations between the wife of Potiphar and Yosef. All along, that 6th one happened at the very end of the story, right before she took her clothes and ran outside. And so what saved him at that point, again, using the power of his imagination, was seeing the image of his father. An interesting question is, these 6 notions we just mentioned, is it something that we should think of as running through Yosef's mind all at once? So the very innovative commentary, which is the Ishat and Achalim, says that these were something that Yosef drew upon at that time. At that time, meaning could have been throughout the whole episode that she was trying to seduce him. And also, there's another point you have to understand, as my sister Chaisara made clear, that the reason that Avram was able to withstand his 10 tests, the 10 tests being the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, was because of the fact of all the fortitude that he gained passing the first 9 tests. So here too, now that Yosef was drawing upon this, it's not sudden inspiration. It's probably the fact that he's gone through many difficulties in his life, and he's had time to come up with these imaginative ideas and to visualize these ideas, and now he was able to draw upon them at the critical time. So what does that mean for the rest of us? We like to think that we go through life and we have enough relationship with God and our learning of Torah and doing of mitzvot, that if there's some kind of temptation of adversity, of sin, that we would be able to withstand that challenge. But it could be that we could come upon a challenge that is so great and so intense, like what Yosef did, that we need to draw upon something more. And so we're giving this idea. Yosef gifted us this idea. Use your imagination, visualize, build a case in your mind for some kind of consequences that you would not want to happen, and that would give you the fortitude to be able to withstand that challenge and that immoral act that is now tempting you. And for who knows, perhaps this is the reason that God gave mankind the gift of imagination. Of course, there's so many ways that we use imagination in the arts and even in learning Torah. But perhaps we have to realize, and we never looked at this before, that the imagination is also a gift that we got in order to withstand any kind of temptations. And that is one of the legacy that we got from Yosef HaTzadik, to use the imagination in such a way. Have a great Shabbos.